Welcome, everyone. This is Mark Cathy. I'm the chairman of the Roanoke City School Board, and this is our first ever virtual emergency meeting. Cindy, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Hopkins, Dr. Jameson, Mrs. Rottenborn,
Yes, I'm here.
Mrs. Smith, Mrs. Smith, she is present.
As I take note, she's present.
Mrs. Watkins,
Yes, I'm here.
Mr. Katz.
I'm here. As a result,
I didn't hear you calling my name, but I'm here.
Thanks. Thank you very much, sir. Sorry about that, Dick. Mr. Hopkins, are you on? Hopefully he'll come through, and Ms. Smith is here. As a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and the resulting closure of all Virginia schools, the board will conduct emergency business this evening related to the pandemic. This is a first for all of us, so we ask everyone to please bear with us as we conduct this meeting electronically. There is not citizen participation as a part of the emergency meeting. Our citizens and media are welcome to listen. However, you are asked not to speak, and please keep your device muted. We retain the right to mute your device from our end if necessary. Board members are asked to please mute their device unless they are speaking. Only one individual can speak at a time. When board members or staff speak, please introduce yourself so that everyone knows who is speaking. Please speak loudly and clearly. Dick, has all this come through to you okay?
Looks fine, thank you.
Thank you. At this point, we have some items from Superintendent Dr. Bishop. Dr. Bishop, I call on you for your report, please, ma'am. Dr. Bishop?
She might be muted.
Cindy, if you were there, could you please check Dr. Bishop and make sure she's on?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we sure can. Thank you.
All right. I'd like to think about this in three ways. First, let's talk about instruction. Then let's talk about meals. And then let's talk about grading and how to move students forward. And there have been a variety of conferences with Dr. Lane and others as beginning, when this first started. I think the most definitive things came out today about that third topic, which deals with testing and all of that. So let's return to instruction. We have permission at this point to move forward with new material, and we'll be doing that through electronic sources that we already own, and coordinators and teachers are developing new instruction. That's been going on. Clearly, we anticipated that we were going to have an extended closure. So that has to happen, it has to be developed, and we have to carry on with something that's enriching for students for the remainder of the school year. The second thing, and I hope Mr. Willis, can you hear me? Because I need to ask you a question. Mr. Willis probably is your best.
I can hear you. Yep.
I think you are our best online resource for what it really looks like to feed students using buses and running bus routes and distribution. And I would love it if you would talk about that for a minute.
Certainly. Yeah, it was very smooth. This is my fourth run today. I did 2 on Friday, 2 today. The runs take about 2 hours. On the run, you have a box of breakfast and a box of lunch, and they're double bagged to protect the food from contact from the folks who are on the bus. The bus is generally driven by the person who drove the bus during the season, and you have another bus driver who's either learning or just helping, and then 2 to 3 people who are taking care of keeping track of how many meals are distributed and just getting the meals off the bus and into folks' hands. It's gone very well. I heard even when it was raining that the folks on the bus elected to take the food up to the houses and meet people halfway. And in general, it's a very positive experience. A lot of smiles, a lot of gratitude, and we've been very generous with the meals. If someone said we need 4, then we write down 4. If someone says we need 3, it's up to them. So it's great. It's gone very smoothly. It takes a lot of people, is what I understand, to manage that. But from the bus end of it, it was very smooth and went very quickly. Today, I actually tried out the volunteer certification system. So I swiped my driver's license and was checked, and the badge was printed, and it was very easy.
Okay.
This was also the first day or second day when Family Services joined us as volunteers on the bus. And so we're beginning to see more and more citizens joining the process. But I think it's gone very well. It just takes a lot of people and a lot of coordination.
We really appreciate you doing it. But so it's difficult. It's very difficult. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
ma'am.
It's very difficult to sustain the numbers of people, but we are working on volunteers. We've got some more volunteers that should be able to help us beginning tomorrow. So that's huge. Now, one of the decisions that we've got to make is what are we going to do about spring break? And my recommendation to you is we'd probably have offered lunch services at various times if this hadn't happened. So I think that we probably need to get a group to study some modification, and we've got a week to figure this out. But some modification of spring break, particularly with that Monday in there. So we'll talk about that. I will say what spring break, but we've got employees and so on. Contractual issue. So there is the business of feeding. I do want all of you to know that there's a possibility that cards will be issued by the state for food, which might take some of the responsibility for this feeding, and I'm going to call it lunch and dinner, to be taken off our plate. But that's a ways out there, and nobody's giving us any kind of a time deadline where that would happen. It's just a possibility. Then number 3, we have extensive guidelines now for SOL, other kinds of tests. For example, AP exams, the review is going to be run by Educational Testing Service. That begins tomorrow. We have notified people if they have not been contacted via email about the AP schedules that they will be contacted, or they should certainly call in to us. SOL testing will not happen, and there are a variety of possibilities around SOLs. The biggest takeaway from today is that no child will be penalized because of some test requirement. Mrs. Smith, you'll be interested in this. The CTE testing requirement is being waived. If the student passes the course, they get the credit and they move on. There are all kinds of procedures in place to promote and for communication around that. Probably the biggest question out there around employee payment. I've talked to the superintendents in both the county and Salem. We seem to have great agreement on one thing. Obviously, everyone is going to be paid through this pay period, and we're going to be asking principals where everyone can engage in a productive activity for which they can be paid. So, and that will be depending upon what the principals decide. It can be as we need help with communication. It needs to be done via electronic, telephone, and so on. We'll work out that communication pattern. But there will be something for everyone. So essentially, in a nutshell, protect our employees, keep our employees, provide continuity of instruction, make certain that every student has coursework that will allow them to be promoted where there are no penalties. Now, we're walking into, I think this is, the waivers are going to make this fairly easy for us. One of the things that you need to face as a board is that every waiver will have to be approved by you. So I'm glad to take questions.
Dr. Bishop, thank you very much. Ms. Smith, I see you have a question hand up. Do you have something with the area? Ms. Rottenborn, any questions?
Yeah. Hi, good evening, everybody. Pleasure to be with you all in this odd environment. I have several questions. I guess I'm trying to track kind of the three buckets of decision points that Dr. Bishop kindly outlined here at the beginning. We have some decisions I think that need to be made regarding instruction. Obviously, I think the board is going to approve whatever waivers need to be authorized, but I think it would be helpful for the board to have some discussion about the path forward for instruction for the three different schools, elementary, middle, and high school. I'd like to then see, I think, some discussion about meals and whether we're going to continue delivering meals via bus or if there's a need or contingency plan in the event that we don't have enough workforce to do that. And then in that third category, I'd like to be able to talk about how we're going to communicate with parents and guardians to give them comfort around graduation and promotion to the next grade. And then lastly, I'd like to add a fourth category for discussion, which is how we are going to pay our workforce and communicate that to our workforce so that they know with certainty and can plan accordingly. So those are the four decision points that I think this board needs to try to work through tonight. I suggest that we start and take one at a time. I think we should start with instruction. Our primary goal here is to educate our students. So my suggestion would be we start there.
And please, Dr. Bishop, if you'd like to weigh in, I think you've started on all these topics, but if you want to hit us up,
Well,
that would be great.
I do want to bring up a topic that I was going to talk about later. We do have a significant number of students without connectivity in their homes. We have the laptops and the tablets to provide them with the equipment if we can get them connected. I don't like promoting businesses, but Cox Cable has offered us 60 days of free internet service, which families could cancel at any point. And after the 60 days, it's $10 a month. I am willing to publicize that. I know what's wrong with that. I know what's right with it. But we think that since Comcast is offering 90 days of free service, we might want to negotiate. That would certainly take us through the instructional period. That would help Mrs. Rottenborn. It would help every level, K through 12, to have that service everywhere. So that is one decision point, and I wanted to mention it to you before we inform parents of that possibility. But do keep in mind that the device is not a problem. The connectivity is a problem. So elementary instruction, we plan to offer the reading and the mathematics, the social studies, and the science. There will be a whole variety of approaches. And so that is being developed right now. It's difficult to develop, but essentially the groups are doing it without being in any kind of large group meeting. Middle school is pretty much developed, and Plato provides instruction for the high school. Again, it would be so much easier if we had connectivity. So
Sorry.
I don't feel like that there's going to be any problem developing the curriculum. Most of it's done. It's how do we deliver it? And again, that would be much easier if we offered that Cox package.
Dr. Jameson.
Yeah, I just want to stay on the instruction. I had a question on the instruction point as well, particularly for K through 5. Because of the requirements on us, instruction has largely been very centralized, as I understand it, because of the review mandates that are now being lifted. So my question is, now that those requirements have been lifted, will we decentralize the instruction back out to them so that they can reach their students, knowing their circumstance differently? I guess that's really my question is, it has been very, very central. What happens now? And then secondarily, and maybe this is a fifth point, so Laura put a fourth on the table, but I'd like to add a fifth, which is, how do we begin moving to minimizing contact in all our buildings? At some point, especially if we increase connectivity, it seems like there really should be minimal people on any premises in our district.
Well, I would like to propose to you that we have the schools open from 9 to 1, and that is the time at which they will answer phones and so on and so forth. And you're going to, let me give you an example. We need to have parents pick up medications and that kind of thing that may be at school. But I think that 9 to 1 is sufficient. I think teachers, it will give them a set of, I won't say protocols, but they're already contacting their students at least every other day, which is what principals are asking them to do. There will be a report back to principals, but they need to move their class that they know better than anybody else forward. And we need to provide the materials for them to do that.
So I guess that's the question, are we developing the curricula then? Because as I understand it, since we entered test season, really a lot of the curricula from this point forward in the school year is review anyway as we prepare for testing. So there's a lot of room for new curriculum, if I'm understanding this correctly.
We will move from review to new material.
And will teachers be developing that themselves? Will schools?
We've got curriculum coordinators here, and there is no reason that we'll have teachers do it whenever they need to, but most of it is done, and we'll march right into it, but we'll end the review and we'll simply say new material.
Okay. I guess the other end of that is, how many people are going to be in our buildings then? It sounds like if that's the requirement for people to come pick things up, I mean, we can forward phones. We don't need people in buildings.
We don't need people in our school buildings at all.
Okay.
Except a principal and someone to answer the phones. The yeah, we've got to be able to keep those phones, answered. Again, I would suggest that commencing Monday, and again, I want you to weigh in on this, please, 9 to 1 for schools. And then I want to talk about central office at some point, because they can do their curriculum development, electronically here, but we do have a little different basic service out of this building, like called payroll and paying the bills.
Yeah. Well, and just to be clear, I'm sorry, but who will be developing the curriculum, teachers or coordinators?
Both. We've got
Both?
some teachers, both.
Okay. And
Incredible.
parents, and this will be part of the message that'll roll out to parents?
Yes.
Mr. Willis, I believe you had a question.
Thank you, Mr. Kathy. Yeah, there was a question again about the devices, Dr. Bishop.
Yes.
I appreciate the advice on connectivity, but there had been a number thrown around of several hundred, maybe 1,000 shortages on laptops for some of our students. Now, could that have been someone was talking just about connectivity, or we do have a large gap in the devices? And if we don't have a large gap, what are we going to do to fill it? Because there is some gap for sure.
We don't, I can't, that number hits me as being very, very high. But we can check out devices that are currently at the schools to elementary students. We have laptop carts and that kind of thing that can be independently charged. I don't think the device is the problem at all. I will let you know immediately if we think that number is true, but I know it's not. But
Okay,
the big
thank you.
problem is the connectivity.
Sure. Okay, thank you. So yeah, so in my mind, it still seems that there's a fact missing of how many laptops were short or devices were short in general. But I agree that both of those problems have to be solved pretty quickly. Thank you.
Look at our technology people on any laptop or devices, but when we first heard about this, I was certainly told by our technology staff that we had enough, for want of a better word, stuff at the schools to check out. We would be okay.
That sounds like a good plan. Thank you.
And there are people, Mr. Willis, who don't check it out, but they know they can't they don't have the connectivity to use it. So that's a problem.
Dr. Bishop, I don't have an issue with us telling people about the Cox deal, that's something that's out there and that's available to them, as long as there's a clear understanding that it goes to $10 a month after the first 2 months. But
I'd like to do that tomorrow, Mr. Kathy, if at all possible.
Yeah, we'll
get that word out.
Yeah, I mean, we don't pick between one company or another, but if somebody's willing to provide something to our students for free, it's something, we need to.
Well, they're the only game in town for us. So, because the other
Sure,
company.
that's right. They have the cable franchise in the city of Roanoke. So
right.
Dr. Bishop, thank you for the curriculum. Laura, please keep us online with all 5 points. You talked about this point before, Dr. Bishop, but I started this meeting. It's so usually when I have some points in mind, I'm pretty good at making them in a live meeting, but this is so off-putting, and we're just learning our way through this online meeting. That one of the things I meant to do and didn't do right off, and really should have done, is just thank everybody, all of our employees. This is an unprecedented situation. We've never lived through anything like this. The closest I've been able to come to, my parents lived in a time of polio, when people had polio in the 40s and 50s, early 50s, in which the schools were closed. But this is really, really something, and I think that we're everybody's trying to get a grip on what we're doing, but it's just very important to us. Our number one resources are people. And we have a lot of good people in this system, and we want to keep those people with us. We want to keep them happy. We want to keep them productive. And one of the things that keeps them happy and productive is their pay and their benefits. And you mentioned this in your talk, but I think it's worth reiterating. What's our policy on our employees and their pay?
I believe that obviously your teachers are all under contract. And we're going to begin offering some enrichment courses as well as core curriculum. So I think teachers are going to be paid. And we've had a lot of cooperation from teachers. And so I think that we look very hard at that and make certain that curriculum is being delivered to our students as appropriate. We plan to have a job for every instructional aide, and I mentioned that earlier, and so that they can be paid. Now, the decision point will have to be, this will be a job they can do from home if they choose not to come in. In fact, most of our work will be done from home, but we will find things for people to do that are productive and meet the aims of the district. The point to wrestle with is someone who doesn't want to do anything, and I doubt that we'll have much of that. So I think we deal with that on a case-by-case basis with human resources. But I think our employees need to be assured that A, there's work to be done and they will be paid to do that work, and that we will meet our contractual obligations. Now, our basic aid from the state will remain the same. What we will have to agonize over from a budget point of view, of course, sales tax revenue will be down. More than likely, our city revenues will be down. But we've got enough money to take care of our employees for this year.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bishop. That's the assurance that we want to provide as a board, and we appreciate
I
that.
also want, when Mrs. Rottenborn, can we just go to meals for a moment, please?
Before we move on to instruction, I have one question I'd like answered or get some clarification on. So can you just clarify for me which grade levels we are expecting teachers to conduct online classes and which grade levels will be self-guided material only?
Well, I think we expect teachers to conduct online classes everywhere. The most self-guided will be high school and middle school Carnegie unit courses.
So are we expecting our teachers to provide like an online class, let's say for elementary school students, will they be told to sign online every day for an online class? What will that look like?
No, material will be available every day. They will talk with their students and explain what's going to happen. Now remember, you've got fairly low class sizes. So you're making a fairly, not a really long list of phone calls every day. And
I guess what I'm trying to ask is, like, are there going to be teachers who are teaching curriculum on an online platform that students would watch on either a daily or a weekly basis?
I can't answer that, but I can get to you and tell you exactly what the plans are per grade level after I meet with the instruction folks tomorrow.
Okay, I think that would be helpful for us to have a little bit more granular level of detail in terms
Okay.
of like which grade levels are going to be taught via an online live teaching platform and versus which grade levels are going to be expected to basically self-teach with then check-ins from the teacher via phone or something.
Okay, I'll get that to you today's Tuesday by Friday.
Yeah, I think parents are really going to want to understand how much of this is going to be guided by the school online via some type of video or other interactive platform versus how much structure the parents need to impose to make sure their children are working through the hard copy or otherwise self-guided electronic material.
We'll get you something definitive by Friday.
Okay, I think we should, when we communicate with our parents and guardians via robocall, I think we need to clearly articulate to them that we are still working through the curriculum and how that curriculum is going to be delivered and that they will get that information on Friday then.
Okay. Mr. Kathy, do you want to move on to meals?
Yeah, yep. Mr. Kathy's back.
Oh, good. Okay, I wanted to point out that we've had a pretty robust clientele. The smallest number of people served was 4,074 on the first day. The bumper crop was last Friday at 7,720, and it was 6,953 today. So clearly there's a need out there. I would like to monitor carefully what's going to happen in terms of this card, try to do some readjustment and see if we can continue delivering at least through next week. And then we have spring break. Can you hear me? Okay. Then we have spring break, and I would like to propose that we use pickup sites during spring break. That would mean that Sodexo stands ready to work with us through all of this. Sodexo has been terrific, but we can produce the meals. The distribution will be the problem in the end. But we'll see how that goes through next week. And I think that this has to happen.
Dr. Jameson, go ahead.
Yeah, about the distribution both over, well, I think your point about spring break makes perfect sense for distribution sites. And that raises the question for me as I think about our current distribution system. Are we thinking at all about larger packaging so we could do more days on one run? Are we thinking about doing more distribution sites and not using buses? I mean, I am glad it's going so well. That is a remarkable thing that has been pulled off. So let me be clear to say that's a Herculean effort that is really, those numbers are stunning. But as the disease spreads, I get increasingly concerned about community contact, and I get that it's a balancing of social responsibilities. I guess my question is, are we thinking through different distribution mechanisms also that could minimize human contact while providing food?
Yes, but I'm not confident. I've been on the phone with everybody I can think of. Nobody's got a better idea than we do. Part of this too is to keep our bus drivers employed and maintain those people. By the way, they've been wonderful. And but yes, I'm concerned as well. But even the state superintendent can't give us any idea about how to do this except that we need to feed kids. Yes.
Follow up.
Dr. Lyons is here. Can you get Dan online for a minute? I think you need to hear this. Dan, do you want to just use mine? Dr. Jameson, I think the point is really significant, and it gets raised every time.
Am I on?
There's Dan.
Part of it's federal regulations, Dr. Jameson. We're seeking permission to serve 6 meals so that we could get it out before spring break, 6 days worth of meals. We haven't heard back yet, and we're looking at other alternatives in case our group of workers diminishes.
And thank you, Dr. Lyons. That's helpful. Do we know, and I recognize this is a different business, if we shifted distribution system, would our drivers be willing to help distribute from sites? For example, if we went to elementary schools instead of by buses, would that be a possibility? I mean, I know I'm just making things up now, but is that outside the bounds of our contracts?
Well, we don't know. We'd have to talk to Durham, but it is my belief that they would be very interested in the work.
Yeah, I mean, I have to commend you from the very first time I heard your plan that your emphasis has been on keeping people employed. So I do want to make that very publicly clear, and thank you all for that, because I've heard that message from the first meeting I attended, that we are to get creative and keep people employed. So I certainly applaud that effort. Thank you.
Well, thank you. It's very important.
I just, you know, like I know you're thinking about this, but I am just going to bed sweated over the human contact and the food stress and how do we minimize that. So I appreciate the struggle you're in. So if we could continue to struggle, I appreciate it.
And we'll continue to seek ideas from across the state and beyond. So to conclude, I don't think this is a matter of voting. Do we all agree that we do distribution sites during spring break? Because we should let families know so they can plan for that. And then we hope that we have good weather and not a snowstorm over spring break or something, which changes everything. But can we let people know that we will provide limited meal service over spring break?
I say
Hey,
yes.
Dr. Bishop,
Yes, I believe so.
can I ask you a quick question on that? And I'm sorry I didn't raise my hand. With the governor closing non-essential businesses at midnight, will there be any impact on the supplies that Sodexo can get and all of that?
I'm told no.
Okay.
They're fine.
I'm going to just do a quick public service announcement, just not on this. I got a text from someone saying there are some parents having a difficult time getting on the call. So that's just to IT out there. I don't know what to do with that, but
Okay.
thank you. I'm in favor of distribution sites because it's another opportunity to experiment with some different ways of getting food out there, since we don't know how long we'll be doing it.
Yes, I agree.
Absolutely.
I think that's a good idea.
Mr. Kathy, if I may.
Yes, please.
Dr. Bishop, the only thing that you said that gave me a little pause for thought was limited food service. I understand that the number of distribution sites would be decreased and we wouldn't be doing the bus routes, but we're still going to be offering breakfast and lunch for all of spring break. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did you mean to say
Now,
we're changing the number of meals? Or did
No.
you just mean that we're changing the number of distribution sites?
distribution. Now remember, there are 4 right now. We might, and we are going to have to talk in-house. My recommendation would be that we try to do 6 distribution sites.
Yeah, I would encourage any place with a big parking lot like the Civic Center or anything like that should be included. I think the high
Right.
schools are good, but I think anything with a big flat parking lot should be definitely considered to maximize the number of distribution sites.
We certainly would use the current 4, and I want everybody to know what they are. Fleming and PH both have drive-throughs, so you can drive through and pick up meals in addition to being bus launch sites. Then there are 2 other schools where food packaging is done, and that is Fallon and Round Hill. So those would become distribution sites, but I need to talk with staff and the people who are heading those current sites to see what their recommendations are. But I wanted to talk to you all first, because you could have said, don't do anything spring break. And I sure don't recommend that. But we will do that and do the best job that we can do, but we will not run the conventional bus routes. We'll try to do something. I feel your pain there, because I want those kids fed and I want the distribution sites to be large, and I'm hoping that we can get a significant number of meals out. I don't want to, for example, I've actually thought about a hotline of some sort where we might help people.
Yeah, I concur. But yeah, I think we'd support as many as we can get out there.
Okay, thank you. It's very important. But I think that, how are you feeling about 9 to 1 for schools and 9 to 3 for central office, with as few people in central office as possible?
Dr. Bishop, I think we feel pretty good about that. We do want to go to a skeleton crew to encourage social distancing as much as we can, as long as we make everybody fully aware of it, of the hours, and everybody knows, and there's lots of information about that out there.
Okay, we will
I think in general, yeah.
we'll post everywhere.
Go ahead.
We will post everywhere, and we will insist that people keep cell phones on their person so that you all can reach us and parents can reach us.
Thank you very much.
So can we?
Dr. Bishop, could you explain? I have a question. I'm sorry. Can you explain how people are being selected to, how employees are selected to participate in the preparation and distribution of meals?
There is no employee preparation of meals. That is done by Sodexo. Sodexo does all of the meal prep, and they do it in accordance with their plans and their safety guidelines. And I'm going to ask Dan to point out to you how those folks were selected to ride buses and so on.
The initial selection was instructional aides. The initial selection, we asked instructional aides who.
Hey, Dr. Bishop, mute while Dan's talking. I think that'll get it.
Okay.
You might be able to just talk on hers. All right, there you go.
We're still working our way through all this, and we apologize for the technical difficulties. We know that also, I see our city councilman, Joe Cobb, has joined the conversation. We're glad he's been making us aware that we're having some difficulty with connectivity. Dr. Bishop, I don't think Dan was ever able to get through. Would you join back in, please?
Okay, hi. Dan, you couldn't get Dan. Well, what Dan was going to say was the original group was instructional aides. Some teachers have joined the group for food distribution.
Right, and teachers of non-core classes.
And teachers of non-core classes. For example, a second grade teacher will have more responsibility right now in terms of working with students than a coach, athletic coach, or PE teacher. Did you hear me?
Yes, Dr. Bishop, I did hear you.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Are there any other outstanding questions? Dr. Jameson, you got any more?
I think we're just on meals, right? I think I've asked the questions I wanted to ask about meals. There is can I ask one more IT question? I got a text about challenges for getting online. Where is this link posted for people who want to join our meeting?
Mrs. Polton just told me Board Docs.
Board Docs? Okay. so people can be directed to board docs. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Ms. Rottenborn, have we hit the 5 points that we needed to hit in our discussion of those issues?
Well, I think that our staff would, for me, I think our staff wants clear direction from the board about what they have to do to be considered employed, and then whether or not we're going to pay them. And I guess I just want to have that said very clearly on the record so that all of the board members can confidently share that important and much needed message with the staff in a consistent fashion. So I'm just trying to understand, if a staff member says to me, how do I stay employed and will I get paid, what the answer is.
Do you want me to take a stab at that?
Yes, please.
All teachers are under contract and will be paid. And that's period. We will find work for them to do. As I said, a coach may be asked to do something besides coach because we aren't coaching right now. So teachers are not at all problematic. We will find work for all instructional aides who wish to work. And the work will be appropriate to their needs. Their age, do they need to work from home? And almost all of them need to work from home. And we certainly will take help for food distribution for people who are able to do that. Mr. Willis, I don't know if he's still on, raised a point in an email about aides going to homes for special ed. We probably can't do that. So I wanted you to know that. So, you know, there are probably not safe for a variety of reasons that we can go into later.
No, that's
But,
okay. It was a long shot. It's just, I understand.
Yeah.
But I think
But-
the question about the IAs is still a little unclear. Are we,
IAs, we will
we are
find
going to
work.
find, okay, we're
Right.
going to find work for them.
That's
Suitable
correct.
work.
That's right. Okay?
Thank you very much, and that's the kind of clarity we're trying to do tonight.
Now there's one other thing. I brought up another category, and I don't want to muddy any waters, but we need to begin communicating immediately. We'll develop a website, particularly for our seniors. There's going to be a great deal of communication with seniors about what they need to do to reach graduation status. You're going to be deluged with questions, and we hope to have a website up tomorrow to answer senior questions and begin senior telephone calls. Be assured that anybody who was on track to graduate on March the 13th, that's the state date, will of course graduate. We want to use pass and fail as little as possible. Most of our kids should be just fine. We will enable pass fail if we need to.
Thank you very much for that, Dr.
Teach the
Bishop.
board how the grading will work and the pass fail will work for people who are not seniors.
Essentially, it depends on the status on March the 13th. All those students have to be analyzed. I'm talking now only about seniors. But then we do have some pass-fail options for students. I don't think we're going to need them.
So for people in kindergarten through 11th grade, will the material that we are sending home for the next 2 months be graded or not graded?
Most of it will not be graded, but some of it will be. But students will be promoted to the next grade level. But the actual grading of material is not being recommended by the department.
And so
And
how
how
will
are
we be
we
making, like if a parent
determine
says to me,
what is graded
how
and
will
what
my
isn't?
child know if they're
They'll be
correct?
told, students will be told on an individual basis, by class. I'm getting a lot of personal texts. Are you all getting those too? About uh, parents can't listen to this conversation?
Yes. I believe I've just shared the link and it's probably out on Facebook by now because they're.
Okay. Oh, my phone's just blowing up. Okay. All right.
The problem is that the phone lines are shut off. There aren't enough lines for everyone.
We have about 180 people trying to call in.
Okay. Britt just told me we have about 180 people trying to call in.
Yeah, I couldn't get in for a long time. I was disconnected and couldn't get back in because there aren't enough phone lines.
Okay. All right.
We will work to make that better, and we apologize to everyone anybody who wants to get on this. It's just an emergency situation, and we will get it. We'll get our act together and do a better job.
We will be very specific about what is graded and how grades will work. I need to have one more link with the state superintendent before I weigh in on that.
Okay. And is the expectation that students who were on track to promote to the next grade will promote?
Absolutely.
Okay. And how is the administration going to report to the board about what the instructional plan is going to be that's being developed this week?
We will do that via a Friday letter.
Okay. All right. That would be helpful. Thank you.
Dr. Bishop, forgive me if you addressed this already in the graduation piece of the puzzle. For those seniors who may need an SOL for them to graduate, is there a plan at the state level for addressing that specific kind of concern?
Are you talking about an SOL test?
Yeah, so if let's say there's a senior who maybe hasn't passed one of those last SOL tests, is there a plan for that student?
Dr. Jameson, we will be giving locally awarded credit, and we have the authority to do that.
Fantastic. I'm sorry if I missed that the first time.
No.
Mark?
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, it might be worthwhile to mention that this meeting is being recorded, and I'm assuming it's going to be out there on board docs or somewhere for the public to review later if they can't get in on the lines.
I believe that is being recorded. I will check with technical staff, and if not, we'll post the minutes too, so everybody knows. In some way, we'll make sure.
I am told that it is being recorded.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Bishop. Does anybody else have any questions on this part of the agenda on the superintendent's items?
No, Mark, I'm sorry, this is Laura. I just want to reemphasize that I think that aside from the meals, which are extremely important because we do have these dueling social responsibilities, I echo Dr. Jameson's very eloquent comment on that point. But by and large, parents are just really focused on getting clear information from the administration about what instruction for their children is going to look like on a daily basis starting tomorrow for the rest of the school year. And I guess I just want to emphasize that the more granular level of information we can provide, I think it will be well received. You know, teachers are expected to do X, Y, or Z on Zoom. Teachers are expected to provide X, Y, or Z applications to their students to utilize electronically versus teachers are expected to do X, Y, and Z with respect to hard copy instructional materials. And the more specific of a plan we can lay out to parents, I think it will really ameliorate a lot of the anxiety that parents are feeling around how to provide meaningful instruction for their children.
And we will do the best job we can do on that. There will be some ongoing, I'm certain that as we go forward, we will be communicating with parents very liberally about that so they know what to expect. And I would want that nothing less for my child.
And parents can all expect robocalls and regular updates from us and from the board and the administration that are going to let them know what's going on.
Yes, Mr. Cathy, I do want to point out that robocalls are great, but when we start talking about how to graduate, how to get promoted, and that kind of thing, we're going to need to employ our website a great deal. So it'll be robocalls saying, get to the website. Now, that then all of a sudden this conversation goes full circle, doesn't it? We now need connectivity. So I'm going to get on that first thing tomorrow morning too. So, but I think what we need to do, and I'll talk with Cindy about it, is you need to know where to find it on the website so you can refer a constituent to a website, which will be important. And they will be given phone numbers so they can reach real live people to talk about the website.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bishop.
Mark,
Yes, ma'am.
I also would just like to echo the statements from Laura, particularly if we can ensure that we're getting the details to parents about any support that will be provided in assisting their children with completing the assignments. Would be really helpful. I've received a number of requests for that information.
I think that's I hear that point. I'm going to seize the opportunity to say that we're going to be spending out I talked to Tasha about 4 o'clock today, and we're going to do some more work with mental health and counseling services to get that information to parents.
I mean specifically support in completing their assignments.
Absolutely. That has to happen. That's something that instructional aides can do as well.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dr. Bishop.
Thank you.
The next thing we have on the agenda is the adoption of the emergency resolution addressing continuity of operations. I want to thank Tim Spencer, our board attorney, for preparing it. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's 5 pages long. It will be posted on our website. It's consistent with the government actions that have been going on since the state of emergency has been called. It's entitled Emergency Resolution of the School Board for the City of Roanoke to effectuate temporary changes in certain deadlines and to modify public meeting and public hearing practices and procedures to address continuity of operations associated with the COVID-19 pandemic disaster. Again, it will be posted on for everybody to read. It's what allows this meeting to take place electronically because because of gathering limits, which are now officially 10 people in the Commonwealth of Virginia. There is action required on this, and I would call for a motion in a second to adopt the emergency resolution as presented.
So moved.
So moved.
Got motions
Second.
and seconds all around. All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you all very much. Next item on the agenda, and we've delved into all of these before because we're being thorough tonight. But we have a discussion of leave policy during a declared state of emergency is the next thing on the agenda. Dr. Bishop, anything further on that?
No.
The next thing on the agenda
Mr.
is...
Kathy,
Yes,
this
sir.
is Tim Spencer. The only thing I want to remind the board of is that there is a new law in place, the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, which will require us to provide paid leave for up to 2 weeks. And I'm working with the HR director on putting together the policy necessary to carry out that law that becomes effective April 2nd.
Mr. Spencer, we appreciate it. We will, of course, comply with the law, and we appreciate you working with Ms. Hatcher to get that figured out. Ms. Hatcher is on the call tonight. Lutheria and I have figured that we don't need to call on her this evening, but we very much appreciate her effort and preparation for being here. The next thing on the agenda is discussion of crisis management protocols across the district. And I think that's one thing we've been doing basically every word we've said. But Dr. Bishop, do you have anything further on crisis management protocols?
No, I think that the board policy puts you in a really good place. I'm stunned that whoever thought we would need this, but we do.
Well, listen, we are the second state in the union after Kansas that has statewide canceled schools.
Yep.
Dr. Northam is a public health guy, and it's where we are, and we're just going to work with it. We're going to work very hard with all of our very valued employees, our valued teachers and classified staff, and central office personnel, and just everybody. And we want everything to go as well as it can for everybody. We apologize for the difficulties with this meeting tonight. This meeting is going to be posted by video. Reach out to any of us if there's something you didn't get. I know there were some things that were said Lutheria didn't hear, and she's on the school board. It's just we've had a few difficulties with the technology, but we're going to get it right. We've got plenty of time to do it. We're learning just like our teachers are learning to do remote teaching, and our administrators are learning to administer without valued staff there sometimes. I do want to thank our technology administrators, Jamie McKenna and Britt Simmons, excuse me. Britt and Jamie have worked very hard to provide the technological capabilities for the board to meet electronically, for the laptops to get out to the kids, for the electronic curriculum that nobody could have imagined we'd need to do. You know, Dr. Bishop started talking about this in January. She talked about the possibility, but nobody thought it would get to where it was. Do any of my board members have anything else that we need to address?
Mr. Cathy, I might just add that unless there's a change to the law, our regular board meeting will require an in-person quorum. So we will be meeting as scheduled, as I understand. Is that correct?
As of now, I don't believe, there's not an alternative method that has been created for regular meeting of boards. I would anticipate that the Commonwealth government will act on that in some form or fashion, but they have not so far. This particular meeting is a meeting, just to discuss the pandemic disaster, but yes, you are correct that in 2 weeks, our next regularly scheduled meeting is still a regular scheduled in-person meeting. Everybody knows it changes so much every day, and no telling where we'll be. But we'll certainly check with us. We'll give you all the notice we can. We'll post on Facebook about it. We'll post on board docs about it. Whatever decisions are made and whatever meetings we have will be lawful, and we'll be we'll try to hold them in a manner consistent with the disaster declaration. Thank you very much, Dr. Jameson. No, excellent question. Anybody else?
Mark, this is Joyce. I just wanted to, again, publicly thank the parents that are on the line for their patience with us. I, for one, right now, I'm very proud to be a part of this district. I think that, people, are risking their own health to be able to feed our children. And, we're all sorry that we're in this predicament, but I love the fact that we've all come together and done what we can to help. And we just appreciate the parents and their patience.
And Ms. Watkins, everybody on this board agrees with you. You're exactly right. This is an unprecedented situation, and people have really risen to the occasion all around this district. And I've never been more proud or seen more effort than I've seen in the last couple of weeks. Anybody else on the board got anything for us? Thank you all very much. Again, we will, to the extent we need more of these meetings, and we probably will, we'll make it better every time for you. We are very, very grateful for everyone. We hope that you will reach out to us and to the administration and to your kids' schools as time goes on, as you have questions. There are going to be things we haven't thought of. There are going to be things you haven't thought of. But we are very appreciative of everybody. We're very appreciative of our teachers and our staff. And we're very appreciative of our partners like Durham and Sodexo. They are really coming through in a time of great difficulty, and we are very proud to be associated with them, and we thank you all very much. That being said, we are adjourned.